Our next panelist is Betsy Bucter. She is one of California Pacific Medical Center, CPMC, which is the hospital in the film, a transplant outreach coordinator since 2003. She works with staff and patients in the Peninsula, South Bay, Eureka, and Central Coast to facilitate kidney transplant evaluations, as well as provide education and assistance surrounding transplant. Betsy has more than 20 years of experience providing nursing care and health education in many clinical settings. Prior to joining California Pacific's transplant team, she was an instructor of nursing at Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in New Jersey. Betsy received her nursing degree from the University of Rochester and a master's in nursing education from Columbia University. Betsy has previously served as a member of the board of the BAAKP in 2007 when this group was founded. On a personal note, she's a recent empty nester, and she has a kid at UCSB, and the other one just recently graduated in San Diego, and she spends a lot of her time skiing in Lake Tahoe.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming today. And this is a really, really tough act to follow. It's so moving, and it's really, really incredible to see all of it kind of come full circle. I'm not sure if many of you know, but actually I was one of the first contacts with Ellie, CPMC. I got this call, and she said, well, I know this is not something you guys usually do, but would you, not something you usually do, but here's my situation. Can you see if you might be able to help? And we have all these policies on all kinds of stuff. And there was some things in there that, in theory, it shouldn't have happened. But I said, let's take it step by step and see what comes out of it. And we got a transplant, and Kathy also got transplanted shortly after that. And sometime after that, I ended up as the nurse that goes to travel to Eureka, so I get to see Kathy in her post checkups. And she's it's actually quite incredible. And I also go to San Luis Obispo, just my work assignments. So it's actually really rewarding to be able to see and work with all these folks. This is, it's again really a tough act to follow with the incredible cinematography. I have some basic intro to living donation types of slides that I'll go through fairly quickly, and then probably most of you have questions about this. So if I go like that, if you could just, and some of them I'm going to go through really quickly. Okay, so our hospital in San Francisco, I think just seeing what was presented in the film, you can kind of get a pretty good idea of what the center is like. Our program has been around for a long time, since the late 60s, and of the programs in the Bay Area, we're the middle size. And in terms of transplants, we do about 200 transplants a year. And living donors, we usually have between 60 to 80 living donor transplants per year. And then we're actually one of the first programs in the Bay Area to start the living donation, or the paired exchange, or AKA swap program, where people can get, if they have a donor that doesn't match like in the movie, they're able to get a compatible kidney. So one of the things that we've learned is that, and this is through research done by the National Kidney Foundation in India, is that of 1 in 4 people that were surveyed for their study said they would actually be willing to be a kidney donor if they knew someone in need of a kidney. And then, as you heard in the movie, there's 2 different types of donation. There's the living donation, directed donation, where somebody knows the recipient and is willing to do it. And then, thanks to the efforts of Ellie and many others, June, and we'll hear from Thomas later, altruistic donations, so people that are considering being a donor but don't necessarily know anyone who needs a kidney, has been steadily increasing. Okay, so the living donor transplants, there's many advantages over deceased donor transplants. We do have, I think there's about more than 5,000 people in the Bay Area now waiting for kidneys. This is just the Bay Area, not California, not Asian, but more than 5,000 people waiting for kidneys. waiting list is very, very long. The waiting list for some of our recipients is 6, 7, 8 years long, sometimes longer, like in the case where someone has a high antibody level. And so if someone has a living donor, that avoids the long wait for the kidney. The operations can be planned in advance instead of, kind of out of the blue, which is usually in the middle of the night or on the weekend. Rejection episodes are fewer. However, because it is surgery for the donor, there can be some risks involved, as you saw in the film when the doctor went through those. So let's see. There's some myths and some facts, and it looks like if you do a second click, there we go. Okay. These are some common myths that people have about kidney donation. If you're a donor, you'll have to take medicine for the rest of your life. Not true. Most donors, they'll have some prescriptions initially for pain during, the immediate post-op period, and also maybe some stool softeners. Constipation is a really common problem after any surgery. Second myth, the kidney donor will have a debilitating pain for an extended period of time. The truth, ordinarily there will be some pain after surgery, which will diminish and be controlled with pain medication. All of our surgeries in the post-op period, people have the pain pumps. Are you familiar with those? It's an IV, and you can push the button every time you feel like you need a little medicine. But it's also programmed so it can't accidentally give you an overdose of pain medication. But it's a wonderful thing for pain relief. The third myth, kidney donor will be on bed rest following surgery. The fact is that kidney donor will be out of bed and walking within the first day or two, and back home to their normal activities fairly soon. And the normal time that we would recommend that someone take off from work, if they work, or to kind of take it easy, is about 4 to 6 weeks after the living donation surgery. Kind of like maternity leave, or the first checkup, they say about 6 weeks. Number 4, kidney donor will be in the hospital for an extended period of time after the surgery. Kidney donors now hospitalized on average for about 2 or 3 nights. Since the surgery is done laparoscopically, the recovery period is much faster. Some other things. Something that people would be fearful of regarding donations. Kidney donor, they thought that they can no longer participate in sports and exercise. The fact is that a donor should be able to return to regular activities and exercise about 4 to 6 weeks after surgery, with the exception of things like kickboxing and rugby and other extreme contact sports for that initial period. And if they need to do a lot of if they work a job where there's a lot of heavy lifting, they'll need to talk with the doctors because if they have to lift more than 20 pounds, there's an extended period of time which we recommend they take before they go back to lifting heavy things. Donor can no longer consume alcohol following donation. While excessive alcohol use is a problem for everyone, a kidney donor can drink in moderation. Myth, female donors should not get pregnant after donation. In fact, a female donor should wait 6 months after donation to become pregnant, but they can absolutely get pregnant and have healthy, normal babies after being a donor. Number 9, myth, a donor's sex life will be negatively affected by donation. And the back loop that counteracts that is donors may engage in sexual activity when they feel well enough to do so. And the reason that we put these up are these are the most common concerns and questions that people have that have come up most frequently regarding the subject of being donors. So I just thought it would be kind of fun to get it all out here. So these I'm just going to cover really, really quickly for just kind of an overview of our basic screening process. So for people who are interested in being donors, we have a website now where they go walks them through, once they submit it, one of our nurses, Lana, I think you saw in the film, or our other living donor nurse, will review the information and will call the person in the next couple of days to let them know, yes, we feel that you're, on paper, you look great, and if you'd like to move forward, we can get you scheduled for the rest of the testing. And that's done in San Francisco as well. And most people still want to know about how the matching works and what happens if I'm not a match. And with our parent donation program, we explain right up front that it's great if you are a match, but if you are not a match, we can certainly still work with you and do the best we can to match you through our parent exchange program with a recipient who is compatible so that your friend or family member does get a kidney. These are some exclusions. In general, people want to know before they even go on there, well, what does it take to be a donor? So we're looking for people who are very, very healthy without evidence of significant high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney problems, cancers, cardiovascular disease, and the other things that are listed on there. And these are things that are usually identified in the initial screening, and we'll let the folks know that, we're sorry, that you really want to do this, but it would make living donation too high risk for you. And sometimes we don't find some of the issues till later on in the testing, like maybe on the CAT scan of the kidney, maybe we'll find someone who has a horseshoe-shaped kidney. I never even heard this until I started this job, but if you have, instead of two kidneys, you have one, these folks have one kidney in the shape of a horseshoe, and we can't work with that. It's just an odd, rare thing that happens, but every once in a while there is something like that that comes up that would preclude someone from being a donor. This one is blood type matching, and in the interest of time, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but if someone is not compatible blood type-wise, we will offer the paired exchange program. So I would say the bottom line with this is it really doesn't matter if you're compatible or not, we can still work with you and we can still get your friend or family member kidney. And this is kind of an illustration of, in a situation where someone doesn't have a match, how the paired donation works. And then in the case where there's more than two pairs, and like in the example of Ellie being a donor, she was that non-directed altruistic donor, and her kidney, by donating to, I keep wanting to say his name is Frank, but it's funny, it set off a chain of donor to recipients in different clusters in different parts of the country to make for many successful transplants. Don't want to spend a lot of time on this. The living donor surgery is done laparoscopically so that the recovery time is much faster, though in rare cases, if there was a problem where it couldn't be done laparoscopically, then they might have to resort to having the open nephrectomy, but I don't think I can recall one time that I've seen that since I've been at CPMC. But we're seeing there are some risks, as they talked about in the movie. The actual operative mortality rate for living donors is 0.3%, so about 1 out of 3,000. And I don't think we said exactly what it was in the movie, but I figured that people need to know the risks to get started if they want to get started. There can be reactions to anesthesia, damages to adjacent organs, can be bleeding, and other post-op complications. Having said that, most people go through with flying colors. They do really well, and our team is really astute, and all of the hospitals are really astute in looking for anything that might be out of the ordinary. And if someone were to develop symptoms like, oh, my leg hurts, they would say, okay, first, might be DVT, could be something else. And so they'll do their very, very best to minimize the potential for complications for donors. Let's see, so health-wise, this is another question that comes up about from people that are getting started with this process. Well, there's probably a reason why I have 2 kidneys. Why do I have 2 kidneys? Why do I need 2 kidneys? And maybe I shouldn't get one. Well, all of the studies and the research shows that the average person with 2 healthy kidneys has 8 to 10 times the kidney function the body needs. Within 3 to 6 months of donation, the remaining kidney adjusts to being a single kidney. And there was a study that was published a while back that took a look at 40 years of living donors. There were about 3,800 living donors, and they followed them over 40 years. And they found that the life expectancy of the kidney donors was pretty much identical. Actually, in the beginning, it was like even a little bit higher than of the average population. And there were significantly lower rates of kidney disease and failure, which is kind of what we'd expect because we do screen these folks. And no lifestyle changes expected. And the only area of concern they found for living donors was that there was a possibility of an increased risk of high blood pressure as they go through life, 20, 30, 40 years down the line after being a donor. So I thought these were facts that people would want to know before they embark on this adventure. And one of the things is I think there's just 2 more slides. This one and one more. Recently, we've started a living donor champion program, and these kind of came from the studies that have shown that there are many people who do have possible donors, but they're just not comfortable talking with folks about it. And in meeting with many of the donors and many of the family members, a lot of times there's family members or friends that want to be donors, but the recipient's not comfortable with it and maybe doesn't want to feel like they're placing a burden on a donor to go through this process. And so through research, we've learned that with education of, more specialized education of our recipients and any willing friends and family members, we're teaming up to help them to learn to communicate better with their family, with their friends, with their, just to kind of expand the possible network of donors that might be available for our patients. And the goals of the program are to help people to decrease the burden felt by these folks that are waiting on the list, to increase the awareness of living donation, and also, again, to help them to identify potential donors. And so this is just in the brand new stages, and it should be, I think the first official teaching session is supposed to start next month. So if there's anyone here that's interested in that, I'll be happy to give you contact information for that. Just one more slide. So the bottom line is that for all of our patients waiting on the list, now there's more than 100,000 patients in need of a kidney in the United States now. In the Bay Area alone, there's more than 5,000. Living donor transplants give the recipients the best chance of success. And anyone interested in finding out about it should contact a transplant center and let each transplant team determine whether that person is eligible. Thank you.
characters in the play. All right, we have all 12? I think we do. Okay, now, so to begin, what you'll need to understand is that, as Betsy was explaining, there's a lot of medical tests that the transplant center will put the donor and the patient through to make sure that the kidney matches the body of the person who will be receiving it. And so each one of these people represents either someone who's going to be giving a kidney or someone who will be receiving one. And the key to understanding the little presentation here is that this sign represents a kidney, and this is like a little puzzle piece. And this represents the person receiving it. Now, in this particular situation, it's not a match because the colors don't match. But in this situation, the colors match, so this kidney and this recipient is a match. Okay, remember that. Now, this is a really cool story for Bay Area because Betsy probably knows the answer to this, but I was told that remember in the film, Kathy was looking for a donor and went through many years of trying to find one, and sometimes she found a friend that was really gung-ho and said, yes, I'll do this. But then they went through this pairing process and it wasn't a match. That's a very frustrating, painful experience. So what actually ends up happening for many patients that you saw in the film is, you'll see on this sign, this is a kidney patient who just is on the waiting list, and they're just hanging out there, just waiting and praying and hoping everything works. Now, I was told that a patient at CPMC was a software engineer and came up with a software program to make this a much more sophisticated process. And you'll see, it's really hard explaining it. You saw Betsy's slide of this thing, but this little play will make it perfectly clear to you, and it's really cool. And I hope you'll tell all of your friends about it. So, this is how it's going to happen. We have okay, Thomas is going to, hold that sign right there. Thomas is going to represent a patient. And hold this sign. So you are needing a kidney.
You just
This
got
is really
cured.
complicated. Okay, and then you were able to find your sister-in-law, and she had a kidney to give. But it's not a match. And by the way, this all happens in the Bay Area, and Thomas represents a patient that's actually in Benicia. Okay, let's move down the line. Bummer, right? They can't do it. So now, Christy represents a patient in Fresno, and she's lucky enough to enlist her son to donate a kidney. But again, it's not a match. Okay, let's continue. Now we have our next patient is in Greenbrae, and you're waiting for a kidney, and while you're doing that, you actually get your daughter to agree. But your daughter isn't a match. See, I wanted to match genders, but we didn't have a Sorry about that. And then we have another kidney patient in San Francisco. And you're waiting for a kidney, and you're able to enlist your daughter. But again, not a match. Not a match. I think everyone's getting the idea now. Now we have another kidney patient in San Francisco. And your kidney patient, and you, oh, we need one more person.
Go ahead.
And you're a, let me just see the sign. Oh, you're a sister, so yeah, you're a female, so that's good. Okay, maybe you've already caught the pattern here, but it's still not done. We have someone on the wait list. They don't know what's happening to them, way down the end. And then we have all these pairs of people who are patients who have actually been able to find someone to help them, but there's no match. There's no satisfaction. Now, this is amazing. What ends up happening is CPMC has this program, right? It's a computer program. And
It's an
someone in your office,
optimization model.
I'm sorry?
So it's an optimization model where it takes all of the people that we have on our list that have a living donor where the living donor's not a match, and then it runs this program where it spits out all the possible matches, and of those possible matches, which ones have the greatest chance of long-term success. And
Yeah.
that's in a nutshell. I do have a slide somewhere you want to see, a little slide that shows.
Yeah, why don't we
This
finish
is
the story and then we
actually
can.
this is a really better
You're gonna-
teaching tool.
Oh, yes.
Where's the next
Okay.
slide?
Now, oh, and one other thing I wanted to point out, all these patients and donors are in the Bay Area, except the last donor here, you're from Arizona. That's what the sign says. So that's kind of an interesting point. The model actually comes somewhere in Arizona for this chain. I don't know if you're aware of that. For Zoe Broussard's?
Yeah, I didn't know where she was from, but I knew.
Yeah. Okay, so they entered all of these patients and probably many others into the computer model thingy. And this is what happened. Another person came forward, and I have a picture of her on the board back there if you want to learn more, and a little link to a news story of it. A lady named Zoe Broussard came forward as an altruistic donor, just like Thomas and just like the subject of our film, Ellie. And she didn't know any of these people. She just came to CPMC, and I said, I want to give my kidney. And this is why it's so amazing. And I hope you tell everybody about this, because it's so cool. This one person saves all these people's lives. Okay, let's match them up. So Zoe gets matched with that patient, all the way down the line, and Zoe single-handedly matches them all. And all those lives are saved by Zoe Broussard. Let's have a hand for Zoe Broussard. Yeah, and her picture's right back there.